Hey guys, I'm back. I just wanted to take some time today to talk to you guys a little bit about something that I consider really important, and that is the hip hinge. So the hip hinge is considered one of the fundamental human movements. We've got push, pull, loaded carry or locomotion, walking, crawling, that kind of thing. We've got squat, we've got the hip hinge, and then we've also got a rotation and counter rotation. So hip hinge extremely important because this is the beginning movement for your squat and your deadlift, or anytime you're picking something up off the ground, that kind of thing. And I think it's really underrated, and people don't spend enough time focusing on really getting the mechanics of the hip hinge down properly to make sure that they are lifting properly and protecting their back in the long run. So I just wanted to touch on sort of a few cues and ideas that might help you as far as working on the hip hinge and getting it down pat. So a couple things that we want to talk about. Definitely we want to talk about kind of getting ourselves into a braced position before we begin these kinds of movements. And we've talked about kind of externally rotating the feet, screwing your feet into the ground, engaging your glutes, making sure that the glute muscles are turned on. They're kind of helping to set the pelvis into position. We're using the core muscles then to help secure that and hold that in place, making sure that we're not flaring at the rib cage. Rib cage is down, chin is pushed back a little bit, and shoulders are externally rotated. So that's sort of the basics of stabilizing the body. When we talk about the hip hinge, what you want to think of is the hips are almost like the spine of a book, right? The opening and closing of a book. So when I want to make sure that I'm standing upright, the book is fully open. When I'm thinking about hinging at the hips, now I'm closing the pages, right, of my upper and lower body and pushing those hips back. Right? A little bit of a bend in the knees and then pushing those hips back and making sure that I'm keeping that spine neutral and my body nice and braced as I push back. Okay, so that would be the basic hip hinge right there. My weight is evenly distributed on my feet, or maybe even a little bit back onto my heels a little bit more. I want to see that my shins are staying pretty vertical, and that's a great cue. If you notice that your weight's shifted forward a bit more, or that your knees are starting to come forward, then you're probably not hinging properly, and you're doing more of a knees forward fault in that sense, right? Some of the cues that I've seen people talk about also would be, imagine like you've got grocery bags in your hands and you're trying to close the car door with your butt. All right, so that's going to help to shift the weight back. We've talked about sort of making sure that I'm loading the hips, loading the glutes, loading the hamstrings. So kind of keeping those on, tension in those muscles as I push back. One thing that I really like to do as well is a banded good morning. So basically I'm getting my feet on the band and just getting that sort of over the back of my neck. Okay? The reason why I like this is it gives me a little bit of tension and gives me some feedback and also a visual cue as well. So if I'm just bending over and I'm not properly hinging at the hips, then I'm going to see the band translate forward quite a bit. There's a pretty big angle on the band. But when I hinge properly, I can really focus on making sure as I push my hips back that the band essentially stays vertical the whole way through the movement. It doesn't translate forward and there's no angle on the band. So that's a great way. Plus I can feel the band giving a little bit of resistance. It's helping to keep some tensions in that posterior chain, tension in the hammies, tension in the glutes, that kind of thing. So that's a great way to visually see and also feel that you're getting that hip hinge right? And that's going to be the beginning of squatting properly, getting in and out of a chair properly, obviously deadlifting properly, that kind of thing, right? And you're going to protect your back and be good to go, be active and healthy in the long run. So that is it for today. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next time.